So we saw how the input parameter is used, but now we will see that without the input parameter restriction, how the customer logic can be written. And for the customer logic, we have two things. What are the two things? We have the customer exit variables, which is a ABAP layer, meaning it is not a AMDP based coding. It is a regular ABAP, regular class based coding, and that can accept multiple values or range or interval. It can accept single value and it can accept multiple values. HANA exit on the other place is AMDP based, meaning your SQL script will come into picture, and it can accept only single value for the variable. It cannot handle multiple values. By the way, one more thing is, do not think that HANA exit has replaced customer exit. That is an incorrect statement. HANA exit variables, the primary purpose of HANA exit variables was not to replace customer exit variables, but the primary purpose was to support the generated CVs out of the composite providers. So basically, generated CVs out of the query, sorry, not composite providers, from the query. Because from the query also, you have an option in the general where we can generate a CV, a HANA CV out of the query. Where is that option? Is that under runtime properties? No, I think maybe from the
You have external SAP HANA.
In the
remote
extended.
Remote access.
No, not extended. Where was that option?
Remote access, but it's disabled.
Oh, this one. Yeah, sorry. Yes, it is disabled right now because the composite provider has HANA CVs and it has OpenODS views. So probably it is not supported on this particular info provider, on the composite provider. But if you just have ADSOs or master data only without OpenODS views or calculation views, then it will be supported. So external SAP HANA view is possible at a query level also. And when you generate an external SAP HANA view, then what happens is whatever variables, customer exit variables exit variables are created, they get converted into input parameters, right? When you generate the HANA CV, all that variables are basically converted into input parameters, exit variables especially. And input parameters do not support range or interval. They only support single value or multiple single values. So in order to support that code compatibility between your regular exit variable and your input parameter based code, the HANA exit variables were introduced. Okay, so the primary purpose of the HANA exit variables was to support the CV which will get generated out of the query. And because input parameters do not support range or interval, that's why the HANA exit variables also do not support range or interval. They only support single values, so that input parameters, when it will be generated, it will have a compatible code. That was the primary purpose, not to replace customer exit. Customer exit is still very much relevant, and you should use customer exit wherever you think HANA does not have the necessary functionality. But if you think that the code can be easily written in HANA without any problems, and you can easily achieve the same in HANA SQL script, then go for HANA exit variables. But if you have a function module, say for example, you have to use a function module, right? So that function module you cannot call in a HANA exit variable, not possible. So if you have that kind of requirement where you need certain function modules and you need to call them to do some conversion or do some calculation, then you always go for customer exit variables. And if you have no such requirement of function module, or you can convert that code and you know how to convert and you are familiar with the SQL script, then go for HANA exit variables. But please don't think that customer exits are obsolete and HANA exits have replaced them. That is not correct. HANA exit variables primary purpose was to support the generation of CV not to replace the customer exit variables. Okay, so these are the two ways. So now first today, what we will see the customer exit variables, how to create them, and we will see the scenario which the customer has for the customer exit variables. So what is the scenario? The scenario is we have two requirements. The first requirement is that for the fiscal period, take the input from the user as a manual input variable. But this manual input variable should be auto-populated with current fiscal period. So that means the value which should be auto-populated for the user should be the current fiscal period. So in the backend, we have to calculate the current fiscal period and populate this. But user should be able to override it. If user wants to change the value, of course, the user should have the option to change it. So that is the first requirement. Second requirement is that once the user has decided the value for the fiscal period, manual input variable, take that value and create a range. That range is similar to the year-to-date requirements what we have in the reports. Meaning, say for example, if the user has input 006-2020 for the fiscal period, 6th period of 2020, then automatically the code should create a range. The starting should be 001-2020, start of the year, till the input period what has been given, which is 006. So from 1 to 6, the range should be automatically calculated, and the report or the query should be automatically restricted. So that is the customer requirement for the customer exit variables. Okay. So before we go into the customer exit variable and create it and then satisfy this requirement, let's quickly look at some theory of customer exit variables, and then we will jump into the system and we'll create it. So there is a new way and there was an old way. So we should be familiar with the old way and the new way. So what was the old way? Old way was the exit function module, exit SAP LRR S0 _001, and this was called at the execution of the report. Then we used to have an include there ZXRSRU01. We used to go inside that exit, and then we used to write our case statements for the variables. So this was the old way. What is the new way? New way is through the baddie. So now no more CMOD or SMOD code. Now everything is now, I will not say replaced by, but now everything is changed as a default way as baddie. Previously the default way was CMOD or SMOD, but now the default way is baddie. So for any new requirements, don't use the CMOD code anymore. Always create a baddie implementation and write your code as a class and method, because in the old way there was no class and method. It was all function module and includes an exit based code, which is not optimized for performance, and it is not also modularized. In the new way, we will code with baddie. Same thing what we did for data source. For the data source, we had the RSU5 SAPI baddie, SAPI baddie. So there also we wrote class and method. Same thing we'll have to do here. We have an enhancement spot concept, and enhancement spot is already given by SAP for the customer exit variable. And that enhancement spot is RSROA variables exit. And then we have a standard system given baddie, RSROA variables exit _ baddie. So name of the enhancement spot _ baddie. That is the name of the baddie for the customer exit variables. This is not a new one in BW for HANA. It is there from last, I think from 7.3 SP5 onwards, if I am not wrong. So this baddie is available, but now the difference is this is the default way. So in the backend, SAP code will not check CMOD first. First, it will check the baddie code. If there is no implementation of this standard enhancement spot and standard baddie, then as a second step, it will go to CMOD and check your code. Okay, so don't think that your code is obsolete or your code has to be migrated. Even if you don't write this baddie, the CMOD is still checked, but not as a first step, always as a secondary step. The first step will always go to this baddie. And this baddie is a filter based baddie, meaning you can provide info objects as filters, and only for those info objects the baddie will be called. Performance wise it makes it faster, but it's not mandatory to give you, mandatory for us to give the filter values. But if you give the filter values in the baddie, then it will be faster. And we'll see that when we will code. I'll show you what I mean by this filter values. So in BW for HANA, the old implementation is no longer supported, which is based on CMOD or SMOD. Meaning now in BW for HANA, you have to start with a baddie. The new implementations, the new requirements should be baddie, should not be CMOD or SMOD. But if you have an older code which is there and you are doing a migration, say for example, from your previous code to new code, and you have not created any implementation of this baddie and the old code exists, that old code will still work. It will not be that you have to undertake a huge task of migrating that old CMOD code to your baddie implementation. It is still supported, but any new development should be done using the baddie. Okay. So migration is mandatory? No, migration is not required. The baddie framework calls the exit function module if there is one. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger. So this is the step-by-step process what happens. So you have the standard variable processing. So the baddie is called, this is the method, process is the main method under the class, and that will call the RSROA variables exit baddie, which is a standard baddie. It will check whether any implementations exist for this particular baddie. If the implementation exists, then it will see that which info objects, for which info object, this is the filter. This is where you will put the filter values. For which info object it is relevant, and then it will run for that info object. And if it does not find any implementation of this standard baddie, then it goes to your customer exit, which is your exit function module based code with an include ZXRSR U01. So that is still relevant, that is still supported, but not the default way any longer. Okay. So what is the process? The process is, first you will have to create a customer exit variable for the info object. In our case, what was the requirement? The requirement is for the fiscal period. So we have to create a customer exit variable for the fiscal period. Then what you have to do, you have to create a manual single value variable which will identify or which will accept the value from the user, and this will also be auto populated with current fiscal period. And then that you have to feed to the next variable. The next variable was what? The range based variable. So first we will take the input from here. This will be auto populated, and the value for this variable will be passed to another variable which will then define the range. So we'll have to create two variables. One will be the both will be customer exit. One will have the manual input checked, one will not have the manual input checked. That means this will be calculated in the back end behind the scenes, but this will be given to user to choose with an auto population of current fiscal period. So that so then we will have to create two exit variables, and then we'll have to add those exit variables to the query, and then we have to write our code. And where do we write our baddie code? In SE18 and SE19. These are the two transaction codes you will work heavily with when you will work with baddies. So we'll have the RSROA variables exit. This is the enhancement spot. So first you will go to the enhancement spot. And what is the concept of enhancement spot? We all know that these are certain places given by SAP to put your customer specific codes. So we have a composite enhancement spot, which is a combination of multiple simple enhancement spot, and within the simple enhancement spot you will have the enhancement elements, and those elements are baddies. So this is the hierarchy. We have the composite, we have the simple, and then within the simple spot we have the different elements, and the elements is nothing but your baddies. So this is the concept of enhancement spot, meaning your customer specific code you can put in this particular spot. So you will go to SE18, you will provide the name of the enhancement spot. This is an enhancement spot for customer exit. For HANA exit, there is a separate enhancement spot. But right now we are dealing with customer exits only. So this is the enhancement spot. You display the enhancement spot. Then we will create the BADI implementation for this enhancement spot. We'll create the enhancement implementation first and then the BADI implementation second. And then we will write the filter values. Okay, the filter values will be provided. What is the filter value? Info object. What is the info object for which you want the code to be executed? And then finally we will write the class. This is the regular ABAP class, and the method inside that class will be there, and the main method will be your process method. This is coming from the interface. IF stands for interface. So as part of the BADI, we will get interfaces, right? And what is the interface? Interface is a list of empty methods. So this is the main method. Process is the main method under which we will write our main code. Okay. This interface is also standard interface which comes with the BADI. So we have 4 things: enhancement implementation, what we'll have to create; BADI implementation we'll have to create; interface will be given by the system; the class we'll have to create; and the method process is the standard method which we will implement, which we will get from the interface. Okay. So there are 3 things we'll have to create: enhancement implementation, BADI implementation, and the implementing class. These are the 3 things which we create using the standard enhancement spot. Okay. And then we edit our code, and then we give the filter value. These are the filter values for 0 fiscal period. If you have, then you can give 0 fiscal period. If you have the code for material or plant or any other info objects, you provide the info objects here. Okay. And if you have the customer exit code for formula or text variables, then you give 1 formula in the value or 1 text correspondingly. But if you don't have that, if it's a regular characteristic value, it's not a formula or text, then you can just give the info object there. Then you will double click on this particular method and you will write your actual code. Okay. So when we write the code for the variables, there are certain important system defined internal tables and system defined variables, system defined, you can say variables, which are used in the code and which we will use during our coding also. Now, please remember that the enhancement spot is called multiple times when reports are executed. Parameter iStep dictates when the enhancement is called. So if you have, code for iStep 1, it will be called. For iStep 2, again, it will be called, so on and so forth, right? So what is this iStep? This is a very important parameter. This is a system standard parameter, which is called I_step. And this is only relevant for customer exit variables. It is not relevant for HANA exit variables. Please remember that. So only for customer exit variables, you should know the concept of I_step. So what does this mean? I_step, if it is 1, that means the code, whatever code you will write in I_step 1 will be called before the variable value is entered. So that means before the variable is popped out to the user, the code will be executed. Okay, so even before the user sees that on his or her screen, the code is already executed. That is in iStep 1. iStep 2 means after the user has entered the value and pressed execute, what happens after that is iStep 2. That means call directly after the variable value is entered. This step is only executed for non-input ready variables, okay, which could not be filled in iStep 1. So that means the non-input ready means user is not giving the value. It is being calculated behind the scenes automatically. Okay. Then you have iStep 3. This is basically to check whether the values entered by the user is correct or not, for checking the validity of the variable values. So if I say, for example, if you have for fiscal period, you have a variable, customer exit variable, and the user has entered 00000000. Okay, that is not a correct value for fiscal period. So if the user does execute, then if you want to raise certain error messages, or if you want to give any warning messages, then all that validity or exception raising can happen in I step 3. I step 3 is basically to check the values of the variable, whether they are correct or not. And then if the variable screen appears again, and I step 2 is executed again. So that means exception is raised. That means warning message or error message will be thrown. And then again, user can enter the value, and then the I step 2 will be triggered again. And I step 0 is for authorization. Basically, the announcement is not called for the variable screen. The call can originate from the authorization check or from the monitor. So this is I step 0 usually used for authorization relevant code. If a query can have multiple variables with customer exits, if there are multiple values for customer exit, then the order is not defined in one step. So basically you will not define the order for multiple customer exit variable, but the order in which the user sees them, that is there in the property of the variable order. And then there are some important, as I told, internal tables and structures which you have to make sure you know for the coding. Two most important ones which I will emphasize on is IT var range, I underscore T underscore var underscore range. This is an internal table which stores the value coming from the screen. So that means the values already known from other variable. So this is an incoming value. That means this will be already available to the code. So whatever variables you have defined, if the values are already there for that variable, this particular internal table can be accessed to get the value. Okay, and then based on that value, you can do further processing. But this is your incoming record for the variable values. And then the outgoing or the final internal table where after processing you will put everything is your CT range, return values, C underscore T underscore range. These are the two most important internal tables you have to know about and keep in mind. And then we have I underscore vnam, the parameter which stores the variable name. Then we have the all of the different ones. Characteristic properties is there, characteristic name of the variable to be edited. These are not so important. The most important ones are I underscore vnam first, where it will have the variable name. What is the name of the variable which is currently under processing? Then I step, you should know I step 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 0 and 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 and 0. You should know what do they mean. I step 1 is for calculation prior to the variable screen. I step 2 is calculation after the variable screen. I step 3 is for checking the validity of values entered, and I step 0 is for authorization. And then you should know IT var range is incoming data already available to the code. CT range is the outgoing data which is after the code processing. So these are certain values you should remember. Okay. So with this knowledge, now let's jump into the system quickly and we will create the exit variables. So let me close this. Okay. Let me open it afresh.
Can we take a quick break?
Yeah, okay. Let's take a quick break, but let's not make it 10 minutes. Let's make it 5 minutes because I have a lot of content to cover. And after that, we have migration also to cover. So let's not take a big break. 9:47. So let's come back at 9:55. Okay. So 9:55, I'll be back and then we'll continue with the customer exit variable. Okay, thank you. I'll just pause the recording. Resume. Okay. So it's being recorded, double checking that. Yeah. Okay. So can you hear me? Okay. Just quick logistics check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now let's create the customer exit variable. We know the requirement. We know the technical fields or the internal tables and the parameters, standard parameters. So with that, we will work with customer exit variable. So first thing, what is the first step? So we saw what are the different steps, right? So somebody has to guide me, please. Sorish, why don't you guide me? What is the first step we'll have to do?
For the customer exit variable.
Yes. So let's look at the requirement again. Okay, I'll just reiterate the requirement so that you have it clear in your mind. So first is we have to take the user input in a variable, but that should be auto-populated with current fiscal year. Oh, sorry, current fiscal period.
Okay.
And then it should be taken in a second custom exit variable, and the range should be created. So what is the first step now?
So first step, we have to create a you said that first step, it should be auto-populated, right? Then we have to create a variable with I step 1.
Correct. So first we will have to create a variable. We'll go to I step 1 later on in the code. So first step is create a customer exit variable. So how do we do that? Go to info provider view.
Right.
Okay, open the query first.
Query, yeah.
There is
Go
a
to
query.
Fiscal.
Correct. Yeah. Please guide me step by step so that we will not miss any step. Okay, so query is there. Go to info provider view. Then we go to, we'll minimize this. We'll minimize key figure. In the time we have fiscal period, right?
Yeah.
In the fiscal period, if you expand, we have value variables. Right click on that and say new variable.
New variable.
Now this is a Z variable, so I'll give ZV. This is a customer exit, so CE stands for customer exit.
Right.
This is a single value. So it is a manual input. First of all, it's a manual input value. It's a single value variable, and it is for fisc per. That is the naming convention I follow, but you can follow whatever you want. So ZV for variable.
There is no limitation of 9 characters or no?
No, here there is no limitation of 9 characters.
Okay.
So which has been increased. I think the limit is now 30 characters, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
So we have this name, and then we have the description as fiscal period. Default will give current fiscal
Period.
Okay, we'll keep this name handy because we will need it while we'll do the coding. So these are the variables. This is my I step 1. For I step 1, we'll remember, because this should be auto populated even before the user gets the screen. It should be auto populated. And the description, what is the description we have given? We'll copy that as well. Okay, so now is it a type of characteristic value? Yes, it's a type of characteristic value because we are not dealing with hierarchy or text or formula. We are dealing with fiscal period, which is a characteristic value. So with this will be fine. Here, instead of manual input, we will provide customer exit now. So this is the processing type. Reference characteristic is fine. Represent single value. You can have interval also there. You can have multiple single. Yeah, you're right. Multiple single values also there. My bad. I forgot about that. So multiple single values are also there. Interval is there. Selection option is there. And pre-calculated is also there. So here we will just deal with single value because I will just accept one value and then I will create a range. So here I'm not creating interval. I'm just, my primary purpose is to take the value.
Right.
Okay. So click on finish. So variable is, already there. Maybe for the batch 1 I created.
Yeah.
So we'll do batch 2. Okay. So we will do for batch 2. Finish. Okay, so the variable is created. Any change I have to do here, Sorish?
No, Devanshu, like this is fine, right? I mean, this will take the period, fiscal period.
Yeah, let's make it mandatory. Okay, so we'll make it mandatory,
If we are
not
making
optional.
it mandatory, then why not we are making it user input? So, I mean, user can also, I mean, by default, it will take the current period, or else the user has the option to input the period.
Correct, yeah, absolutely. So it is mandatory for the user to input, and this is the checkbox, input ready. That means user has ability to override the current default value.
Right.
Okay, let's save this. Done. What is the next step?
So we go to the baddie.
We go to the baddie. Okay. So how do we go to the baddie?
So SC19.
Are we missing any step? Before we go to baddie, what is the step you are missing?
So we created the variable processing type. We have used as
Customer exit.
Customer exit.
Yeah.
So
what are we missing? Okay. Will this
Save.
will sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Saving the query and variable.
Yes, you did not add the variable in the query.
Oh, okay. Right.
You created the variable,
Right. Right.
but in the filter, if you don't add, it will not be called in the body.
Right. Oh, okay.
For this particular query, I'm saying it will not be called if you don't add it in the query.
Right.
So what we'll have to do is we'll have to go to fiscal period, expand the characteristic value variable, and this batch 2 is created, put it here.
So they want to
Yeah, go ahead.
So over here, like in the old Bex, we were able to right click and create variable. So this in the new version, this one it doesn't allow, right? Or
it allows, yes.
Okay.
So right click, new variable.
No, not over here. So suppose if we drag the characteristics in the filter, fixed filter, and then right click and try to do it here.
Oh, this one? Yeah, you can do that. So you can say restrict, and in your restriction, you can say variables.
Right.
And then in the variable, you are saying here you want to create fresh variable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this we were able to do in the old Bex, right?
Yes, you're right. Let me see if I'm able to do a new variable here. No, maybe not. So not from this screen. Once you do the restrict, you can use the existing variable, but I don't think you can create a new variable here.
Okay.
You can't do it, Devanshu.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Only the global variables are permitted, not the local.
So even from here also, I don't think I can create a new variable. So no. Right. So it's on the left hand side you have to create.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, now it is done. So let's save the query.
Right.
So star should be gone. Yes, query saved. Now the third step is the code to populate this, because this is a customer exit. So let's open a GUI session. So we will go to create the enhancement spot driven implementation. First, we will go to SE18,
right,
where we will go to enhancement spot. What is enhancement spot? For customer exit variable RS ROA variables exit. Simple name. RS ROA is the group, and then variables and then exit. Okay. This is the simple name. Display the name, don't change it, just display it, enhancement spot. What is it asking? It is asking for an ABAP project, right? So either you can create new, but we already have ABAP project. So what we'll do is we will just log into our ABAP project. See, we are not logged in, that's why. So we will log in. Why it's asking for ABAP project? Because we are dealing with code.
Yeah.
When we are dealing with code or we are dealing with the table, display of the table data, it always needs ABAP project. Okay, so now you go to display. Now it took the ABAP project name,
right?
Identified, we'll open that. Okay, now what is the next step? Sorry.
Just trying to figure out.
That's
we have to create the implementation class?
No, not yet. Before that, first we have to create the enhancement implementation or the baddie implementation.
Okay.
See, this is the standard enhancement spot.
Okay, yeah.
Here we have to create the baddie implementation. The baddie is also there, standard baddie, which is a part of this enhancement spot, RSROA variables exit baddie. But we have not created an implementation. You always have to implement a baddie. Okay.
Is this a one-time activity, or every time we create a new variable, we have to do this?
Good question. That depends on whether you follow an efficient process or an inefficient process. If you are following an efficient process, then this is a one-time activity. If you're following an inefficient process, then you have to do every time you will create a new baddie implementation, which is a very inefficient way. Same thing we did for data source, right? I showed you an efficient way of doing it, which is methods based. Every data source is basically a method. Remember?
Yeah.
Same thing we'll do here. Every variable will be a method.
Okay.
If you do that, only one time you have to do. But if that is not being followed, then every new variable you have to create a bad implementation.
Oh.
Okay. So I'll show you the inefficient way first, and then we'll go to the efficient way. So this icon you have to click, create baddie implementation. So please remember, so far we are just displaying the standard enhancement spot and the standard baddie, which is there in the enhancement spot. Now we have to create our customer implementation, which is called baddie implementation. So click on that. Once you click on that, it's going to ask you, before creating the baddie implementation, first you have to create enhancement implementation. So there are three things you have to create. Remember, what are those three things? Enhancement implementation you have to create, baddie implementation you have to create, and class you have to create. These are the three things you will have to create. So the moment I clicked on create baddie implementation, this particular, it says, hold on. First create the enhancement implementation and then we will talk about baddie implementation.
Right.
So I'll say, okay, fine. Let me create a enhancement implementation. I'll copy the name from our first batch and I'll just put BT2 here. So this is the icon, create enhancement implementation. Click on that. Give the name ZBW variable enhancement implementation BT2. Okay. So I'll have this name. Enhancement implementation name is this. I'll give the description BW or enhancement implementation for BW variables. Okay. So I'll copy the description also because we are going to use that for baddie implementation. So this is the description. Now, okay. Composite. Remember, I told you there's a hierarchy of the enhancement spots. So if you go to the theory, we had something called composite enhancement spot, simple enhancement spot, and the elements. Composite enhancement spot is optional. If you don't have the requirement of combining multiple simple enhancement spots into a composite one, then you can leave it blank. In our case, it's a simple implementation. We don't have a requirement of composite enhancement implementation, so we leave it as blank. So this is optional. So say okay. It will ask you for a transport request. This is a local object. So click on local object, which it will go into $TMP. So in $TMP, this is created. Okay. Now we will choose this. This is now not creation. Creation is done. Now it is saying select the enhancement implementation which you want. So I will choose this one. The moment you double click on this one, now it will say that, okay, good. First step you have done. Now please do the baddie implementation. So for the baddie implementation, we'll copy this name to keep it consistent. And instead of enhancement, I will just put baddie. Okay. And then this also we'll copy. And instead of enhancement implementation, I will put baddie. And then the class which we will implement. So class name we will keep same as our implementation name. So that is easy to identify. And instead of BW, we'll keep CL. ZCL is the naming convention for global classes. LCL is the naming convention for local classes. This is a global class which we are creating. And this is not an AMDP class. This is a regular class, regular ABAP class. So we will copy this and put it here. So three things we are done. First thing, enhancement implementation. Second, baddie implementation. Third is the class. So click on OK. It's already going into $TMP, which is fine. Save it there. So it is saving it. So now my enhancement implementation is ready. My baddie implementation is ready. And the class implementing class is also there, which is my ZCL var baddie implementation BT2. Now click activate. So we'll quickly activate it. Okay, but we have not written the code yet.
Right.
We have just created the class. That's all. And what is this IF? What does this IF mean, Suresh?
IF. I mean, if statement, no, I mean, it cannot be.
Interface.
Okay.
Interface. What is an interface?
With blank methods.
Blank methods. Interface is a group of blank method. It can be one method or several methods. Blank methods means the implementation of the method will not be there in the interface. The class which is implementing this particular interface will implement the method. So method is empty in interface. The actual code of that method will be in the class which will implement it. That is the concept of OOPS. This is an OOPS concept, and this is, I think, comes under polymorphism, if I'm not wrong. Interfaces, empty methods, and implementing class is probably under polymorphism. ABAP guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. It comes under polymorphism, right? Yes. Okay, so it's basically polymorphism means the same class can behave differently. Sorry, the same method, not class. The same method behaves differently for different classes. So that's why the method is empty in the interface. How it will be identified, or how it will be implemented, or how it will behave, how the method is actually implemented is based on the different classes, but the method name is the same. So that is called polymorphism. Polymorphism means multiple forms it can take. One method can take multiple implementation classes. So this is the concept of OOPS. So we have the interface there. We have activated it already. And now what we'll do is we'll double click on this. It will say interface method not yet implemented. You want to create the implementation? Yes, I want to create the implementation, because so far we are just declaring the method. We are not declaring the implementation of it. So now this will also declare the two lines, which is method and end method. That's all. So just activate this. Still, we have not written the actual code, guys. This is just the skeleton we are preparing. Okay. Okay. So now our enhancement implementation is ready. Now you can go to SE19. Okay. I always prefer not to jump to different places from SE18. Once your work is done in SE18, come out of it and then go to SE19, and then you will say that enhancement implementation is this, and I'm editing the enhancement implementation now. So click on change. So now I'm changing the enhancement implementation, and then I will have the bad implementation already there. Implementation is active. This implementation will be called. If you want to deactivate a particular enhancement implementation, this is the checkbox. Say for example, if you have multiple enhancement implementations, but you just want two of them to get triggered, then this is your checkbox to activate or deactivate an enhancement implementation. So done. What is the next step, Suresh?
Yeah, so I mean, we go inside this one, implementation class.
Before that, what is the next step? You are missing one step.
Missing one step.
Shikha, can you tell me what is that step?
Filter values, info objects.
Correct. Filter values. If you remember, we have to give filter values. Not we have to, we should give from a performance standpoint. It is not a mandatory step, mind you. Okay. But from a performance standpoint, so that the baddie implementation and the enhancement implementation is called only for these info objects. That's why it is important. So filter values, we will give, click on this, create filter combination. It will generate a row. Double click on this value 1, and then it will ask you for which info object you want. So the value should be 0 fiscal period, because we are providing the customer exit variable for 0 fiscal period, and comparison operator is equal to. So the value, the filter value should be equal to 0 fiscal period. So click on OK.
Devanshu, any performance
Yes,
relation?
this has direct connection with the performance of the baddie. So if you don't give this,
Right.
then this baddie implementation will be called for all the info objects, and then it's gonna check that okay, this info object is there in this query or not. But if you have this filter value there, then if there is zero fiscal period related customer exit, only then it will go and check whether yes, this query has zero fiscal period there. It doesn't have zero material, it doesn't have zero plan. So then this bad implementation will be called only for zero fiscal period. So it has a direct connection with the performance. But it is not mandatory. Even if you don't give it, it's fine. It's not that there will be a huge dip in the performance. Maybe if it's also it depends on the code. If your code is pretty complex and data volume is huge, then yes, you will get some improvements there, but not a deal breaker. This is not a deal breaker.
Okay.
But it has a direct connection with the performance. So filter value is given. That means I only want to execute this baddie for zero fiscal period. The more customer exit variables you have, you can add them here. So right now we just have for zero fiscal period, and then we have activated. After every step, keep saving and activating. Okay, that's the best practice. Otherwise, you might lose your work. So it is activated. Now we'll go to the implementing class. Now we have the class name.
Right.
So you can edit from here. That is one way. Or you can copy this, close it, and then click on the ABAP project and press Ctrl-Shift-A. And then you can write the name ZCL-var-baddie2 and open it. Either way is fine. Sometimes what happens is when you go directly from the S19 screen, it goes to GUI editor. It doesn't open the Eclipse editor. So if it opens GUI editor, and it will not allow you to modify your class in the GUI editor anymore. You have to do it via Eclipse. So what I prefer is I close that. After copying the class name, I separately open the class so that it opens in the Eclipse editor. Otherwise, it will be in the GUI editor. So let's see what is the definition. Go to outline. So in the outline, you can see the method with the green circle. So we have the definition of the class, and then we have the implementation of the class. These are the two main sections of OOPS. First is the definition, second is the implementation. So in the class definition, you have this is a public class and this is the final. That means this is not reused in any other class as a child class. This is the final class, and then it's a public class. So in public section, we have the interfaces defined. These are standard interfaces. There are two interfaces. One is interface baddie interface and interface RS ROA variables exit baddie. This is the interface which we are primarily dealing with. There's another one which is a standard one which automatically got added in this particular class. Protected session we have nothing, private session we have nothing. End class. End class means ending the definition of the class. Then the implementation will start. And in the implementation, the methods which are part of this particular interface. So if you go here, press F3, you will see that what are the methods of this interface. What are the method? Process is the main method. That's it. Just one method it has. And it has the definition. It does not have the implementation. The actual code is not there. So we have IVNAM. We all know that IVNAM is the variable name. We have variable type info object, RSBK, periv, this, iStep, another important one, okay, for iStep. And then we have CT range. CT range is the output, and then the others. So this is the interface signature. So close this. Now we have the main method which is called process, which we have to implement. So we'll write our code here. Okay. Now what we will start? We will start with case I underscore VNAM. End case. Okay. Case I VNAM. When the value is, what is the value? This guy. When it is this, then what you do?
iStep 1.
Yes, if step is 1, and if I step is 1, then what do you do? Soresh, tell me.
So we pick up a variable and pass side item.
Correct. We pick up the current calendar day. See, what is the purpose? The purpose is to calculate the current fiscal period. And that's what will be auto-populated on the screen. So current fiscal period, to calculate current fiscal period, we will use side item. Okay, so what are you saying?
So LV fees per, I mean, let's declare a variable LV fees per, or LV date, sorry. LV date is equal to side item. Yeah. Then we call the function module like date to period convert.
Correct, exactly. So now we'll have to use a function module because we don't know the current fiscal period. We have to use a standard function module or a custom function module if you have one, but fortunately SAP has lots of standard function modules. So we can use them and pass the side item, and then we can get the fiscal period, current fiscal period, because function module will calculate for us. Okay. So what is the syntax for calling the function module? Sorry.
So like in old, we used to have a pattern, but here like.
Yeah, we don't have pattern. So what is the replacement of the pattern? Control space.
Okay.
And shift enter. These two, remember this. Control space to auto complete and shift enter to enter the pattern.
Okay.
So what we'll do is call function. That is the same. What is the function name? It is
date to period.
Date to, let's see. Yeah. How did I get this? I pressed control space. I just typed few letters and then I pressed control space. The moment I press control space, it will give you the date to period convert, and this is the entire signature of the function module. And then what does it say? Press shift enter to insert full signature.
Right.
Let's press shift enter and the entire signature of the function module is entered for us.
Right.
Okay. So we will remove all these additional ones. So we have some importing parameters exception. Let's uncomment them. Control 7 is the keyboard shortcut to comment or uncomment. Okay. So now we have exporting iDate. What should I give here?
LV date.
LV date. Okay. Then in the periv, what should I give here?
K4, right? I mean
K4. What is periv? Fiscal variant. Okay. So let's do this. We will say we'll declare some variables. LV date. Okay. This one. LV date. What is the type I should give here, Suresh?
Type. TYPE.
Type. Okay. What?
Side item. Right. Comma. Then we have to give LV period.
Periv. What is the type here?
We need to check that one. I mean,
yeah. So if you are confused or if you are not sure about the type, what you should do is go to, because this is an importing parameter, right?
Right.
So go to the signature of this F3.
Yeah,
you go inside there and it will tell you that what is the type of periv. These are the types. So let's copy that. Okay. So let's copy that and put it here. So this is the type. So we will copy this, and then we have these also we will do. Okay. Right. So what we will do is, this is my LV underscore booper. Okay. Type is this.
Right.
And then we have LV underscore G. You know, there was a joke on this particular field. We used to call it Jija ka ghar. So it sounds like Gajar. Some people call it Gajar also, which makes me hungry. But we used to have a joke for this because these are some funny names from SAP, right? So okay, let's give this. type of this. Okay. So where did I copy this types? From the signature of my function module, because it already has these parameters. So I'm just copying the type to make it consistent. Now I'm assigning side datum to LV date, and then I'm also assigning LV periv. I'll give constant as K4. K4 is the constant in our data also. You can check the data. Our ADSO data, OpenODSP data, everywhere we have used K4. So I'm just giving a constant of K4. This is ABAP language, guys. This is not SQL script. We are still using the ABAP language. So all the ABAP relevant syntax is valid here. Okay, so IDate is LV date, which is a system date. Periv is, now I can easily give LV periv. Then you have importing eBooper. eBooper is your super duper here. Okay, then you have the gadget comes here, and then you have exceptions, which is fine. Input false, everything. What is the problem here? What is the problem, Suresh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, you have put a full stop after period, so you should not be putting those. I mean, the full stop should not be there.
Oh yeah, you're right. Final full stop should be there, not in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Let me give this comment. So how do you put a comment here?
It's,
Double quotes. So fiscal variant. Okay, this is what?
This is
my
period.
Fiscal period. And this is my
fiscal year.
So what this function module is doing, it is accepting date and fiscal variant and returning, it's giving me back the fiscal period and fiscal year. Okay. So it's doing that. Everything else is fine. There's a full stop here, so which is fine. If size sub RC is 0, then what do we do?
Change that. If size sub RC equal to 0,
yes.
From not equal to.
Not equal to it, from equal to this message, or we can remove it.
We have to concatenate then.
Perfect. Absolutely.
LV FISPER. So
what we'll do is we'll concatenate LV FISC.
No, LV
no, not LV FISC. LV GJAHR.
Right.
And we have to
Constant
LV Booper. Sorry. Into LV what?
FISPER. LV FISPER, new variable.
Or what we can do is
directly pass it.
Correct, exactly. Instead of multiple variables, what I can do is I can directly pass to a structure, and that structure is ls range low. Right? This is the no, not this. Yeah, this is fine. Or I can do this. This is also fine. ls range low. Now ls range I have not defined. I have to define this first. Right? So let's define it. ls range of type. Now, again, I am confused about the type. So what should I give the type, Suresh?
Control space? No, you have to, it will give plain.
No, it will not give you, you have to type something. Right. So now how to know that what is the ls range?
So we have to go back.
We have to go to the this method, because this method has those parameters. So we'll go to this method definition. Okay. F3 to navigate there. It is navigating. So this is the method ls range it var range. I think in it var range it has ls range, right? So we'll navigate there. It's navigating.
Range low. We have to pass there.
Sorry, come again.
No, in it var range underscore low. Sorry, hyphen low. We have to pass the value down there.
No, it var range is the incoming value. We are not dealing with any incoming value. We are populating the default value right now.
Right.
I am just here to check what is the type here. So I will just navigate it here. That ls range type, I forgot about that. There is a Come on, why is it taking so much time to navigate?
Generally, Devanshu, this range is already defined, right?
Yeah, range is defined, but range is defined where? In the CT range. CT range is the output. What I'm trying to find here is, what is this RSR? Oh yeah, RSRS. Yes, that's what I was trying to remember the name. So we will say here, LS range. LS range is my local structure, not the system defined, right? So I have to give RSR underscore S something, right? RSR underscore S underscore range, I think. RSR underscore S underscore range. Let's see if something comes up. Yeah, this one, range aside. Correct. I forgot this. This is the one. So see what I'm doing basically. What I'm doing is, let me format the code. What I'm doing is I'm defining a local structure of type the standard range, which is the sign, high, low, those things, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm concatenating this and this into the range low. Okay. And then what I have to do is I have to also do ls range sign, I think, right?
SIGN, right? SIGN.
SIGN. Let's check in the control space. Where is the sign? There. SIGN. So SIGN is what should be the value?
EQ.
No, that is opt. I.
Oh, I include.
And then ls range opt.
Option is EQ, right?
Correct. Option is EQ. Let it complete the code. It's taking a little bit of time, but that's fine. We know, okay, there it is. Opt is equal to EQ because it's a single value. If it had been range, it will be BT, between. And I stands for include this, don't exclude it. For exclusion, it is E. So ls range sign is include and the option is equal to. And finally, what we'll do is append ls range, right, to CT, which is the standard one,
right?
CT range. That's it. Okay, let's revise what we have done here. Okay,
we could have directly done it in CT range or no?
Yes, you could have. Yes, you're right. We could directly it, but as a best practice, see, for example, as a best practice, if you want to modify something or do some calculation, it's always better to take it in a local range, do the modification there, and finally append the local range to the CT range. But you could have done it directly in CT range also. I agree. I agree. Right? Instead of LS range, you can put in the CT range low. That's what you're saying.
Right.
CT range sign I, CT range opt equal to.
Correct. That's
correct. 100%. You can do that. No problem. But as a best practice, I always take it in a local structure and then I assign that. That's fine. So now we have defined case I vnam. That means we will check the variable name. If it is this, then we will check if the I step is 1. If it is 1, then we are defining some local variables. Then we are assigning the system date to this local variable. The variant, fiscal variant is K4. Passing them to the function module, getting the fiscal year and fiscal period, concatenating that, because what is the format of this? The format is basically YYYY PER. Sorry, let me do this. YYYY PER. So that means the format is 2020-007, say for example.
Right.
So if we have to concatenate, we have to concatenate year and period both. So that's what we are doing. Concatenate the fiscal year, fiscal period into low. Low is basically a component of this structure. Okay, one of the fields of this structure. And another field is sign, another field is opt. These are the 3 mandatory fields you have to provide. Once you provide that, I'm appending the entire structure to the main output structure. There is not structure, internal table actually. CT, T stands for the table. If it is S, it is structure, T is table. So I'm putting that one single line into the internal table. So save it.
No, Devanshu, I think you have, okay.
Control F2. There is an error, is it? Let me do Control F2. No, no errors. Yes, sorry, you were saying something?
No, I think I was just wondering, like, to check whether the Booper, this one, that one T009B popper, whether, I mean, what is the data element of that one? If it is cat3, then that is fine, or else it will be problem.
Okay, let's check that. num-c3.
num-c3, right. Then it is fine.
Yeah, it will never be char, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Even if
right.
it's char, we have numbers and characters, so that's fine. Okay. So now we'll activate Control F3 to activate the class. Okay, class is activated successfully. So now what we'll do is we'll put some breakpoints. Okay, where we'll put breakpoints? We'll put in the case statement, I-step statement. I want to check what is I-step. I want to check whether this is successfully assigned or not, calling the function module. Then we have append structure, and finally in the end method, I'll put. Question to you guys, why this is not turning to green? Shouldn't this turn to green?
No, because it's a BAP breakpoint.
Absolutely, yes. So this is a pure ABAP breakpoint, not an AMDP breakpoint. AMDP breakpoint should turn green for a successful breakpoint activation. The ABAP breakpoint should not be green, it should be blue. Blue is fine. Okay. So we have put the breakpoints. Let's go back to our query. Okay, now we'll execute the query. So reporting preview, execute. So now it's saying that, do you want to switch to debug perspective? Yes, I want to switch to debug perspective. So switch there. And it will automatically on the top, you can see from the PW modeling perspective, we switch to debug perspective. And now we are in the debugger. This is a ABAP debugger, not AMDP debugger. Okay. So all your keyboard like F5, F6, F7, F8, Shift F12, all those things are available here. So now on the right side, we have the variables. We have the breakpoints here. If you want to, remove a breakpoint or put additional breakpoints, you can do that. So we'll click back to variables. Now I want to check what is IVNAM. Double click on that. So there are two ways. Either you can hover over it. It will give you the variable name. This is the variable name. Or on the right side also you can see the variable name. So this variable name is which one? Our customer exit manual input single value variable. Okay. So let's go F8. I'm pressing F8. What does F8 say? From breakpoint to breakpoint. If you want to jump from step by step, if you want to go F5. Okay. So I-step, what is the value of I-step? We don't have I-step here. You can either hover over it, the value is 1, or you can double click on it. On the right side, you can also see 1. So it will go inside. So press F5 to go inside. So it went inside. See, it did not jump from breakpoint to breakpoint in F5. If I would have pressed F8, it would have jumped to the next breakpoint. Okay, LV date. Let's see what LV date gets populated to an LV period. LV date is 000. The fiscal period is blank. So let's press F5. Side datum, today's date is 4th October. So it populated the side datum. Good. Period populated to K4. Now call function. Suppose I want to not go inside this function module, but completely execute it and come out. How do I do that? What is the keyboard shortcut, Sorish?
F6.
F7, right? Or
F7 will take you back. F6 to complete this function module.
Okay. Let's press F6. Yep, exactly. So F6 is basically come out. What is F7? I forgot. F7 was also...
takes you back, one step back, F7. F8 is breakpoint to breakpoint.
F8 is breakpoint to breakpoint, yes.
F7 will take
F7
one step
is
back.
To skip over, no? Okay.
It will take you back. F6 is basically execute the program.
And then go to the next line.
Yeah.
Okay.
F5 will get inside the program.
Yeah, F5 will definitely go step by step. It will get inside. Correct.
Yeah.
So now we will go to LV Booper. What is the value populated? 010, because the current fiscal period is 010. And then we have the fiscal year. It is populated to 2020. So now if I go step by step, F5, it will concatenate my year and period. That means now the final value in the LS range. What is LS range? Right now it will be blank. It's all zeros and blank. We have sign, option, low, high, and all these are fields for the structure. So if you go F5 one more, the low value is populated with concatenated value of year and period. Press F5 again, F5 again, and then CT range. What is CT range right now? 0 records.
Right.
Okay. So we'll press F5 again. 1 record came in. What is that 1 record? If you expand that, the same I equal to 2020-010 is there. Okay. And then you press F5 again.
They want to use F6. That is a more convenient option instead of F5.
You're right. See, it went into the standard code. So I'll just press F8 and then it terminated. Terminated means my debugger session is done. Terminate does not mean that the query is also terminated. If you now go back to your BW modeling and go to your reporting preview, see what got populated. The automatic population happened as 010.2020. Why this is dot? Because it's an external format given to the user. Internally, it is being stored as YYYYPER 2020010. So this is the default value which got auto populated from that code, I step 1. Now, if I want to change it, say for example, if I want to override it and then submit it, again, I think it will go into the breakpoints because we have the breakpoints there. So let me quickly jump from breakpoints to breakpoint. Or what I can do is at the end method, I can just put my cursor and shift F12 and then F8. Terminated. So now if you go back to the query, go to the BW modeling. Reporting preview has returned error messages. What is the error message? 1 second. No data available. Okay, so data is not available for that particular period 007. Probably data is not available. But you saw that the value was auto populated by the step 1 process even before the user got that screen, and on the screen user can always update the fiscal period. Okay, so that we saw. What is the next step? Now we have to create another variable. So let me pick up Devi. Are you there, Devi? Hello, Devi, can you hear me? Okay, maybe not.
Devanshu,
Yes, tell me.
sorry, one question. When we change the value,
Yes.
why it jumps to step 1 process?
I think
it's
because of the breakpoint we have set, it's again executing that and going into the code probably.
Yeah, but it should not go to step 1, right? It's a pre-processing steps, like before the variable pop out for the user.
Yes, you're right. But what's happening in the backend is, in addition to 0 fiscal period, there is one more standard info object called 0DAT, 0DAT or 0DAT. For that also, I think it is picking up the code automatically that is being added. I don't know, maybe because it is a compounded info object or something. And probably because of that, it is going again into the step 1. It should not. Yes, I agree. Once I update the code, update the value and press submit, it should not go. You're right. But I think because of the 0 DAT, it is again going there.
And another question on the code itself. Can we go to the
Class?
Yeah, so it's a very basic question. Actually, what SY dash SUB RC represents? I have
code.
0.
Return code. So after every statement, whether it's a select statement or a call statement or insert statement, update statement, there is a return code which is returned by the system. That return code will not be 0 when this particular call statement or any other statement is unsuccessful. Then it will be 4 or 8 or anything other than 0. So what I'm saying is only when this particular function module call was successful, that means it will return 0. RC stands for return code. Okay. So SI means system and subroutine code. SI subroutine code means the standard code which is returned by system based on the immediately preceding function or the statement. So whether it's successful, yes, only when it is successful, it is able to convert, go inside the code. Otherwise it don't go inside the code. Automatically, if it is not successful, it will throw you the message. If you want to handle the message, then you have to write if size sub RC not equal to 0. Remember the original code had not equal to 0 and then it said message 1, 2, 3 or some messages were there. So that is basically to catch the exception and errors and throw you that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, I think Devi is not there. How about Shakti? Are you there?
Yes, Devanshu.
Yeah, Shakti, now guide me for the next variable. What we need to do for the next variable?
Again, we have to create this customer variable once again.
Correct. Again, we have to go. So we go to the query and then we go to where? Which view we have to go? Project Explorer?
Info provider.
Info provider. Correct. Then we have to just, I'll just minimize this. Then what do we need to do?
This is for fiscal period again, right? Or is it for a different one?
You tell me.
I'm not sure about the requirement, Devanshu.
Okay, let's go to the requirement. Get the fiscal period from the manual input and create a range for the fiscal period.
Okay. So in this case, I guess we need to go and write the code alone with I step 2.
I step 2 code will be applicable to which variable?
For the variable what we created just now, that's VBCMI.
Yeah, but that is manual input. Do you want this to be manual input? It is being calculated now. This particular variable should not be manual input. So we need to create another variable. So we'll create another variable now because this is user is able to edit the data and provide the value. But once the user has given, again, you have to catch the value and create a range.
Yeah. Now I got it. Like we have to right click on the fiscal period and from there we have to create another one variable.
Correct. Variable. Exactly. So we'll have value variables, new variable. And then now we'll give the naming convention a little bit different. So we will copy this and now it is no more manual input and it is no more single value. It is an interval. So we'll give this name. I'll copy this. This is the I step 1. Okay. The description, I'll just copy it here. Okay. So this is my second variable and this is for I step underscore step equals to 2. And the name we will give, we'll copy the name and we'll change the name, the description. This is fiscal period. This is YTD up to input period. What does this mean? That this is a fiscal period which will give you the year to date values and what this year to date will end in up to the input period. Whatever input period is provided as in the first go, it will take that as the 2 and from will be start of the year. So this is the name. Characteristic is still characteristic value. Now it will be customer exit. This is also customer exit based on fiscal period, but it is no more single value. It is interval now because it will have a from and it will have a to. So it will be interval value. So click on finish. And it will come to any change we have to do here. Shakti?
I don't think so. Maybe not input ready.
Input ready.
Yeah.
Correct. And what else? Let's make it mandatory.
Right.
Okay.
Mandatory.
Yeah, let's make it mandatory.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll press Control S to save it. So this is not input ready now. This will be auto calculated in the backend. So
Yeah.
query is ready. What is the next step?
We have to go to the T code SE18.
Again, you are doing the same mistake what Soresh did. What is the missing step?
We need to add it to the
Yes,
filter.
exactly. So we'll go to fiscal period and characteristic value variables and we'll add it. Where is that? This guy. Okay, remove the fiscal year variant. We don't need it. Control S. Okay, now we have to go back to our class. Okay.
Okay.
Do I again implement the baddie or what should I do?
We can continue in the same. Maybe when condition can be given.
So again, I have to write when condition for the different variables, and again I have to write the code. So is this an efficient way?
No, create a new method.
This is not an efficient way. What is a better and modularized way? The better and modularized way is we have to create methods for every variable now. Let's quickly refresh what we did for the data source. Let's go back to S4 and that will give us the necessary, background or refresher of what exactly we did there. And then I will ask you to guide me here also. Okay. You're not off the hook yet, Shakti. Stay there.
Yeah, sure. Devanshu.
Okay. So now here we have favorite package as our BT2. You expand that. We have the business add-in baddies. This is the baddie ZZRSV5 video data source, right? So I will open this and we'll go and look at the class. So this was the baddie for data source. And then what is the class? Go to interface tab. This is the class. Okay, ZCLIM 5. Let's close this. I'll keep this name handy just in case. And now I'll press on the ABAP project, Control Shift A. Give the class name. Open the class. And now this is the class, and this class I'm going to open with SAP GUI. So click on that so that we will see a better view. Okay, now you see what we did. We first created a template method for every developer to follow. Then using that template method, we created a method for each data source, one for header, one for item. And these were the system provided methods coming from the interface. Okay, so how did we create template? From this system provided method. And then based on that template, we did this and this. Okay, clear? Now you tell me what I need to do. So I'll close this, I'm closing this. Now you tell me what I need to do for this guy.
So we need to go in the same way for our class as well to SAP GUI.
Okay, so let's go there, open with SAP GUI.
And
yeah, we are here. Now what do we need to do?
We have to copy here. I remember doing some step. There is an option to copy.
Yeah, where is that option to copy? I can't see.
That small icon near to
this
that.
is disabled. This is here, copy. Why is it disabled?
Change mode?
Yes, you have to go to change mode. This is display mode. So go to change mode. Once you go into change mode, all these icons will be highlighted. So we'll click our mouse pointer there. We'll then click on copy. And then here we'll put paste. Okay. Now we'll give name template for variables. Okay. You can give any name, but I just give some name here, meaningful name, and then hit enter. It will say, do you want to rename? Yes, I want to rename. Okay. And then activate this class. Always save and activate after every step. Okay. So class is activated. Now what is the next step?
So we have to get back to our class in the ABAP project. There we can do some template corrections if we need.
Yes. So there now we go back to our class. Okay. Go to outline. I'm still not seeing that template method. Why? Because I already had this open. So what I have to
Yeah.
do, I have to press F5 to refresh. The moment you
Yeah.
press F5 to refresh, automatically the latest code which is added will show up. So we have the template variable. So if you go to this method is basically the copy of which method? The process method. So we copied it, right? So code also got copied. The entire code got copied. So we'll just, so I have the code block here. Okay, we are already above the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the code. So I have the code block here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the code for the template. Where is my template? This is the process. This is the I step 2. And then we have the template. There you go. Okay, so I'll just copy the template just to save some time. I already have the code here. So I'll copy the template here and we will copy this. Okay, I was locking that. Okay, so we have done it. So what we have done is here, we have the method template underscore var. Okay, and then we have the end method here, and we have the end class. Statement end class is unexpected. Why? Class implementation. We have the process, we have the method, we have end method here, then we have the method here.
Line 89, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Exactly. Yep. Okay, so because the first character should be a star for the comments, so that's why. Yes. So why we have commented it out? Because we don't want this code to be executed. We want just as a reference code to be copied. So Control F3 to activate. So class got activated. Now what is the next step?
So we have to copy this template and
Correct.
rename it to. Yeah.
So now we'll again go back to open with SAP GUI. You can also do a copy from here, but that does not work seamlessly, at least for me. So I always prefer SE24. So now we'll go to edit mode, and then now we will copy this, and we'll say copy, and we will say paste. And now we have to follow a naming convention, a proper naming convention. So what I am following here is ZV, and then I step 1, and then the name of the variable for I step 1. What is the name of the variable for I step 1? This is the name. Okay. Hit enter. Do you want to copy? Yes, I want to rename this. Done. Again, copy this, paste it here, and now I will say ZV underscore I step 2 underscore the variable name. What is the variable name for I step 2? This is the variable name. Hit enter. And yes, I want to rename. One more thing which we forgot to do is right now it's an instance method. You can change it to class method. Okay, static method basically, which is a class method. Why class method? Because they don't need an object to call them. You have to instantiate an instance method to call them. But for the static method, you don't need an object. You can directly call the static method without the object. So we will keep them as static method, and they are also available for every object. So they are not object specific. So we'll keep them as static methods. Okay, so this is done. Control S to save, and then Control F3 to activate. So now we have a proper naming convention which every developer has to follow. For all the I step 1 variables, the developer has to follow this naming convention for the method. These are method names. And then the method name for I step 2, if you have. Then method name for I step 3, if you have. Right? So you have to follow a proper naming convention. Exactly same we did for data source. We followed a proper naming convention, which is removing the 2 and then the method name for the data source. So you can do that. See, this is the naming convention which I am following. There is a limit to the number of characters here. What is the limit? 30. 30 is the limit of characters. So if you don't want such a big method name, you can always shorten it. But you know, I am following this. So for demonstration purpose, I'll continue with this. But don't keep it too long, I would say. you can keep it short if you want. So we are done here. We'll close this. Then what we have to do, go to outline, and then we'll do F5 to refresh. Yes, sorry. Oh, sorry, I was stepping over. Yes, tell me, Shakti.
Yeah, so in the same way, we need to write some code in our new method. I think we have to write for the old one as well, because we have created a new method for that. So we need to copy and paste it in that BT2 one. The
Yeah,
code
you're
what we
right.
have
You're
written.
right. Absolutely. So first of all, let's see what happened. So this is the interfaces. This is a class method template. It has the same signature as my process because that's where I copied from. Then it has the class method of BT2 for the I step 1. And then it has for I step 2. Okay. So these are all class methods. And now we have the implementation. For implementation in the main process, I am going to, okay, first of all, this one I don't need. So I will just copy the code here. Okay. Just to save time. And then we will go line by line what's happening in the code. So for I step 1, I will just copy this. Okay. And till and if should be fine. This is what I, oh no, before I step 1, let me copy for the main process. Okay, the process one. So we'll copy this till end method, just before the end method. We'll copy this and we'll paste it here. Okay, just before the end method. Don't worry, I'll go step by step what's happening in the code, but let me first complete the code. So this is for the I step 1. Okay, so we'll copy the I step 1. End method. Okay, so where is my I step 1? This is my I step 1. Right now it's a template method. We don't need that. We need the actual code. And then we have for I step 2, we will copy this code just before the end method and we will paste it to I step 2. Again, this is template 1. We don't need that. Template method is done. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so now let's go step by step what's happening in the implementation. So for the main class implementation, we have different methods. The main method which will call different methods is your process method. The main method which calls individual methods for every variable. So what are we doing? We are declaring a LV method, local variable of type string. Then we have field symbol of type the range, right? The range SID is the same, high, low, option equal to those things. Then we are assigning the city range to LT data because this is what we will manipulate and assign it back to city data. So first the data is assigned to this LT data. And then we are doing case I step. Now we don't need case vnam. We are not doing case vnam. Initially we were doing case vnam. Now it is replaced by case I step. So we will check the I step now as a first step. If it is 1, that is before the pop-up of the variable screen, then what we are doing, we are concatenating a constant suffix, which is prefix, zv underscore ist I step 1, ist I step 1 underscore the variable name into LV method. If it is 2, if it is zv ist2, I step 2 underscore variable name into LV method. Okay, 3 I'm not checking because right now we are not implementing 3 and 0 also we are not. We are just interested in the I step 2 right now, 1 and 2. And then we have the end case because we are just concatenating and creating the method name. And then we are under the try catch. We have try catch is for the exception handling. We have call method, LV method. So dynamic. Now we have made it dynamic. Whatever the name we have created here, we are calling that, exporting all the standard variables and changing CT data from LT data. This is where we are again assigning the LT data back to CT data. So LT data will be populated based on whatever is happening inside the method. And then whatever processing has been done, finally it will be assigned back to CT range. Now it will jump to, if it is I step 1, it will jump to this particular method because this is for I step 1. Now same code, what we have written. Okay, there is no change there. Calling the function module, passing the side datum, all those things are there, and then finally concatenating it and then passing it to CT range. So this is all fine. Now we have for I step 2, see what we are doing. So we have declared the local structure for ls range and var range, because now we will use it var range. In I step 1, we did not need it var range because we were not taking something and then doing some calculation. In I step 1, we were just doing the calculation, that's all. But in I step 2, we are now accepting the value which the user has given and creating the range. So that means we need an input value, and that input value will come from a it var range. So that's why I've defined a local structure of the same type as it var range. If I step equals to 2, which is after the pop-up, by the way, we don't need if I step equals to 2 because we have already checked that. Okay, but still you can leave it or you can remove this also. Read table it var range. Now I am reading the table into my local structure with key. What is the key? Variable name is my key. Variable name is, it should be what variable name? The first variable name, because the value which I am trying to get is from the first variable name. And the first variable name is this. Let's make sure it's correct. So I'll rather just copy paste it here. Okay, so ZV customer exit, manual input, single value, fiscal period for batch 2. So this is the variable name. So it's going to read the table for this variable value. So if user has, say for example, given 007, user has overwritten and it has given 007, then it will take that value. And then if the read is successful, size sub RC, subroutine code. If the read is successful, that means if it's 0, then I'm clearing the structure just as a best practice, concatenating the first 4 digits from the fiscal period. So what is the value here? Basically what I'm doing is, see, the low, ls var range low value is what? 2020-010. Okay, if the user has not overwritten, it will take the current fiscal period 2020-010. From this, I am extracting first 4 digits. So that's what I'm saying. First 4 digits from the ls var range low, and then concatenate 001. So instead of 010, now it will be 001.
Devanshu, don't you need to write a low plus 0, then bracket 4? So from the 0th position, from the first position, it will go to 4th position, right? So,
yes.
So you have to, I think, and this one, 195, you have to write underscore low plus 0, then the bracket of 4. So from the 0th place, it will go to 4 places.
I don't think you can, I mean, if even without giving 0, it will still do the same thing, isn't it?
This should work. This should work.
But then suppose if you want to take the 5th from the 5th place, then how would you do that?
From the 5th place onwards.
Yeah, suppose from the 4th place, you want to take the next 3. Then how will you do?
Then it will be the 4 plus.
Oh.
But if it is from the beginning, you don't need 0 plus.
Okay.
But if it is, yes, you're right. If it is from 4th onwards, you need 4 plus. 5th onwards, 5 plus. But from the starting, you don't need.
Okay.
You're right. But I could have given 0 plus also here. It's the same thing, basically.
Okay.
So I'm concatenating that into the low, and high. What is my high? Whatever has been passed by user, that is my high. So that means the value here, high value will be what? 2020-010. So my range, my final range after this append will become from 2020-001 to 2020-010. That is what I'm creating. I'm creating a range and I'm assigning back to CT range. That's all. It's a very simple code. And then we have the template method, which is all commented it out. So it will not run it. So let's press Control F3 to activate the class. Okay, activated successfully, no syntax errors, which is fine. So looking good. So now we have the static methods of the template, static methods for I step 1, static method for I step 2, and every new variable you will create. Now you don't need to implement any baddie anymore. You don't need to change the main process method anymore, which is this one. You just need to create another method with proper naming convention, and then it will trigger that. So let's put some breakpoints again. So for this, we will do case when I step. Then we will do call method. Okay. Then we will do end method. So our main thing is done. For the I step 1, we will go to call. Okay. And then we will go to concatenate, or I will directly go to append, and then end method. For I step 2, we will go, if I find after read table I want to see, and then after concatenate, after append I want to see, and then end method I will see. Okay, so I have breakpoints in main process, I step 1 and I step 2. So let's do that. Go back to your query and then execute it now. So we will execute reporting preview. It should throw me that box saying that, do you want to change the perspective? Yes, I want to change. So we'll switch it. And now we will go I step. What is I step? It is 1 right now. Okay. So we'll press F8 to go to the next breakpoint. So now this is calling the LV method. What is the value of LV method? It created the value by concatenating it. I step was 1. So it went here. It created this value. And this value will now be called. Okay. So if I press F5, where it went to the I step 1 method. And then we'll check whether what is the value, LV square is not. Press F8, go to this call function, date to period convert. Okay. We will just get the value for LV fiscal period and fiscal year, what it has. F6 to go. So we have 2020 and 010, both are there. Size sub RC, what is size sub RC value? 0. This is a system subroutine code. So it is 0. That means this particular call was successful. And then we will go to the next breakpoint, which is append, and CT range. We will see what is CT range, 0 values. So press F5. It will have 1 value, and the value is 2020-010. Okay. Now, if you want to change it here, the benefit with the ABAP debugger is you can change the value here. So if I want to change, I can change here, or I can change here anywhere. So I'll just say 2020-005 maybe. Okay. Updating value is updating the value right now. So now it has changed the value to 2020-005. So it took the value, but in the ABAP debugger, you can change the value. That you cannot do in the AMDP debugger, unfortunately. But in the ABAP debugger, you can do that. So I've changed the value to 2020-005. Now let me go.
You missed 10, Devanshu.
Oh yes, thank you. Otherwise it would have been a wrong value. Yes, thank you for that. So 2020-005. Yes, 7. It should be 7. Okay, good. So we are done. So now what we'll do is we'll press F8. It will go to end method. So now it is, what is the method name? Okay, it's still there. So now let's go ahead. F5, I want to go ahead. Okay, this one. It went to the standard SAP code now. Okay, let me press F8. Okay, so now what is the case? IV step is still there. Let me call the method. I step is still 1. I think this is for 0 date. It's happening. I step should be 2 now. Yes. So now I step 1 processing is done. Why it went twice is because, again, as I told you, what I observed is it is doing for fiscal period, but it is also doing for 0 date. It's bringing that 0 date by default. So now we are in I step 2. So that means my processing has been before the screen processing is done. Now after the screen, the processing has to be done, right? So now what we'll do is we will press F5. It will say when is 2. So it's not going into when 1 because I step is 2. So it went here. Now in the LV method is blank right now. See what will happen. So LV method is populated with I step 2 method name. And now it will, I'll go call method, LV method. So it should jump to my I step 2. So it went inside the I step 2. Now I will see what is my IT var range. IT var range is the incoming data. So it has 2020-005. So that means the modified value which I took, now it is taking that. Okay. And see, this is what I was talking about. One, it is for 0 fisc per, and there is a second value which has come in. It's for 0 dat. So probably it is because of some compounding or reference characteristic. So that's why it's going twice there. Okay, but we are just concerned with the 0 fiscal period, so we'll keep an eye on 0 fiscal period. So now it is reading the IT var range into this with key this. So the key is this. So what value it will get? 2020-005. Okay, so we'll keep ls var range also here. Ls var range is blank right now, so keep an eye on what happens in ls var range. Okay, F5. What got read? Fiscal period I equals to 2020-005 got read in ls var range. Now I'll press F5. If site step is 0, yes, clear ls range. Concatenate ls var range low. So ls var range low is what? 2020-005. Take first 4 characters and then 001 into ls range low. Okay, so we will see what is ls range low. Keep an eye here. 2020-001. So this is my start of my particular range. And then I'll press F5. ls var range high came 2020-005. So now I am creating that interval of from value to to value. And it is sign is include, and then option is between, and then finally I'm appending to CT range. So let's see the CT range. Right now it's 0 records. Press F5, 1 record came in. Okay, what is the record? You can see below also here. Okay, what is the value? So I include between 2020-001 to 2020-005. So we have created the range in I step 2, and then we will press F8. Okay, and method it came, F8 terminated. So it terminated, and then we will go back to the query BW modeling perspective. Okay, and 520, let me submit this again. So now 5 came. Okay, it's again switching back. Let me quickly jump to my last one, shift F12. Okay, it's still going F7. Let me quickly execute that. Okay. So I'm pressing F8. It's jumping from the breakpoint to breakpoint. And then it is, I think, I step 2 now. So let me quickly go there. Okay, it's done. I step 2 terminated. So now go back to your query, and your query will get the data. And now the data is there. Okay, so we have the data as per the restrictions which we applied. So this is how you will get the data for the I step 1, meaning auto population, and for I step 2, it is for after the window, the calculation happening, which is the range calculation. And if you want for I step 3, you can always add I step 3, but again, you have to create a different method for that, and you have to follow the proper naming convention. Okay, so I think we are way over time. Sorry, it took a little bit more time than anticipated. So we'll stop the recording for the main class now.